Okay, graph exponential growth functions. Graph y is equal to 3 to the power of x. So this 3, this to the power of x is our parent graph. So this is a growth function. So when anything is 1, 2, 3, etc., it is going to be increasing. So it's going to be growth. So we need a table of values to be able to graph this. So we're going to look at creating a table two different ways. So first of all, we need the x and the y. So we're going to use the values -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So just to understand, we want 3x, 3 to the power of x. So this is going to be -2. So this is 3 to the -2. So this is going to be 3 to the -1, 3 to the 0, 3 to the 1, and 3 to the power of 2. And we need to calculate those. So just over here. So 3 to the -2. So first of all, this minus, this tells us that it's going to be the reciprocal. So it's 1 over 3. And then this here is the exponent or the power. So it's going to tell us it's squared. So this is going to be 1/9. 1 over 9. We do the same with the second. So we have 3 to the -1. So this tells us it's going to be 1 divided by, and 3 to the power of 1 is just going to be 1/3. So the second one, next one, we have 3 to the 0, and anything to the power 0 is just itself, so it's just 1. And then 3 to the power of 1, this is going to be itself, so this will be 3. And 3 to the power 2, so we know this one, 3 squared is going to be 9. So we need to plot these values. Now, the other way of creating our table of values is by using a calculator. So I'm just going to bring my calculator up onto the screen if I can get it to fit. So let's have a look. Okay, so if you're using the ClassWiz, we can use the menu option and we can scroll across to number 9, which is table. And this will come up with f of x. Now, if you're not using one of these calculators, on this button here on one of the old Casio, it will say mode. And you can choose the option for table. So we'll bring up f of x, and we need to put in our function, which is 3 to the power of x. So 3, and then I'm going to go to the x button here. And to use the x, I'm going to press alpha, and then my bracket, because there's an x above the bracket. So press equals. G of x I'm not using, so I'm just going to keep that as 1. And then it says start. Now in my table I've got -2, so I'm going to put in -2 equals. Then end. So my table goes up to 2, so I'm going to just put 2. And the steps, the difference between my points here is just 1, so step is 1. And equals, and now it's given me a table of values. Now, I've done this in fractions, but I could write this as decimals. So this here would be 0.111. Okay, let's just move my calculator. And then I'd have a third as 0.333. And then my other values are the same. So what I'm going to do now is use an active plot. Okay, so I'm going to type in my values that I've got. So it was -2 and 0.111 and -1 and 0.333 and 0 and 1, and I have 1 and 3. And I have 2. And I have 9. So this is giving me my point. So I could just go with my pen and join this up. So I'm just going to do it also to check. So 3 to the power of x, and this has plotted my line for me. So this is showing growth. Now what I need to do is talk about the range and the domain. So the domain, this is all the x values. So all the x values, so this will continue. It doesn't actually reach 0, but it becomes very close. But this is going to continue to negative infinity. So this is also going to keep increasing to positive infinity. So this is all real values. So this is positive and negative. Oop. So I want values. Let's change that to values. Get my eraser in a second. Or you may see it written as negative infinity to positive infinity. So this is all the x values for the domain. And the range, now we're not going to have any negative values here on this graph. So we look at the positive, so we're the y. So the points are going to be anything, so it's not on 0, but it's greater than 0. So the range is going to be the y values. And this is going to be y anything in the set greater than 0. Okay, so this time we've got graph exponential decay. So this here is less than 1, so it's a fraction. So we're going to create a table of values and we'll look at the difference. So our table of values, so x and y, and we're going to use -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. So we're going to have a third to -2, a third to the -1, a third to 0, a third to 1 and a third to the power 2. So if we're to work this out, so a third to -2, so we said this means this is the reciprocal. So that means we're going to flip this. So this is going to be 3 and it's going to be squared. So it'll be 9. And 1/3 to the -1. So reciprocal, so we're going to flip it. So it's 3 to the power 1, which will just be 3. So we have a third to the power 0. Anything to 0 will be 1. A third to the power of 1 is just itself, so that will be a third. And we have a third to the power of 2, which will be 1/3 squared, which is going to be 1/9. So if we graph this, so our values -2 and 9. So -1 and 0, 3, and 0 and 1, and 1 and a third, which is in decimal 0.333, and then 2, and this is going to be 0.111. So we note this is going the other way. So I could, with my pen, I could draw this. So not. Okay, so I'm also going to put this in Desmos. So y is equal to, okay, so a third to the power of x, and this is our graph. So if I also put in y is equal to 3, and then I put in, okay, so I've also put in 3 is equal to 3 to the power of x, and you can see that they are a reflection in the y-axis of each other. So this here is the parent function, okay, and then it is reflected in the y-axis if it is a third. So if we change this to 4 and we change this to a quarter, we would see a reflection. So these coordinates here, 1, so let's have a look. At point 1 here, so we have, okay, 1, 4. And if I change it to 3, we'll see that this coordinate, 1, minus 1, 3. Okay, so if we look at the domain, which we said is the x values, and we're going to find the range, which is for the y values. So we're going to be looking at the red graph. This is for decay, which is decreasing. So our x values, so it's from positive infinity, and it is going to continue to negative infinity. So this is all real values, or all real numbers. And also from negative infinity to positive infinity. Then the range of the y values, so we can see that there's nothing down here on the negative, so it's going to be all values that are greater than 0. So the y values, so this is all values that are greater than 0.